Well, live from Modi'in, it's Wednesday afternoon, Israel Update with Mike Clayton in Franklin, North Carolina, Hanoch Young in Modi'in, Israel. And how are you, Mike?
Hey, good, Hanoch. We've got the remnants of storm. What is the storm? I mean, we went through the all the names this year. Now we're in the Greek aleph. No, it's the aleph. Yeah,
Alpha, Beta?
alpha beta. I was trying to think of that. Yes. And so if we go through that one, maybe we'll go to Hebrew.
I got to tell you, you all got to just hold back a little bit on those storms.
You know,
Seriously.
Well, we need the rain on this one here. I haven't seen what happened on the coastline down there yet, but it's been pretty constant for us here. But that's not. I mean, the storms that we're seeing in hurricanes coming in are nothing like what we're seeing in the streets of Philadelphia.
Yeah, I just heard that. It didn't come up on the news here, and from it's just chaos personified, and people seem to look for any excuse to go out and wreak havoc and destroy.
I was watching the news. We were watching the news last night. We're actually watching the Tucker Carlson thing because I was wanted to see this guy that's kind of the whistleblower for Biden. But in the side, they've got the picture of what's going on in Philadelphia. You got a Walmart that people are just are driving their cars up to the Walmart. And I'm seeing people walking out with, bags of dog food for all, everything you can imagine. Somebody opened their car door. Their car was stuffed with things, and nobody. Let me go this way. I read in Matthew 24, as in the days of Noah, and it's like I used to look at that and then, looked at the times of Noah and it said there was violence, Hamas. Now, these were the days when Hamas in Israel was wreaking havoc. And it was like, okay, well, maybe that. But now we see that it's literally going all over the world, this violence, and it's uncontrolled. And who is doing anything about this? The police, they can't, this last person that was killed, it was coming after him with a knife. What are they supposed to do? You guys would never have this conversation
Now,
in Israel, would you?
no. You come at an Israeli police officer, a border police officer, a soldier. If you come at someone with a knife, you will die. It's a very simple equation.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were a police officer, that's a legitimate clean shoot. I mean, but and what is it that they're protesting? That this guy was killed because of some kind of racism? It was racist to shoot someone that wants to kill you?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yes, I think that's the truth. I think you got it, Hanoch. Yeah. Maybe you should run for office. I'm sure that with your black Shabbat T-shirt on, that you would of course be. I had to set you up there, didn't I?
Yes.
Okay. So you'd be voted in anywhere. I'm sure we'd all vote for you.
Vote for me, and I'll set you free. Rap on, brother. Rap on. Okay.
There you go. Well, hey, so I got to get the big news. All right. People are wondering. I see it when people post on Facebook what they're eating for dinner, or lunch or something. And I just never thought that people should be interested in what I'm eating. Okay. But with that being said, we do need to give a little bit of an update of, why are you seeing the kind of Hanoch 2.0, this smiley face in the midst of the lockdown in Israel? And it all comes through the influence, not of yours truly here, but the influence of my wife over you, who has taught you how to be a gourmet Southern cook. So,
Absolutely.
you know, I would love to see the picture later on in the day of Hanoch's
Yes.
dinner, but could you just give us a little bit of a rundown of what supper in Moda'in will look like tonight for Hanoch Young?
Okay, well, this is the classic quote, I've been at the Claytons in Franklin, North Carolina, ... So I'm making salmon patties or salmon cakes, however you want to call them.
Well, actually, there's another name there, by the way. Okay, so our grandson, who you've met, okay, many times.
Yes.
He's challenged you in numerous things. That's another story. But he looked at him not too long ago and said, Nana, you're making fish cookies.
Okay. So, showing flexibility, I'm making fish cookies out of salmon, wild rice, tomato gravy, and fresh organic collards right from the farm.
Yum, yum.
Now, I don't want y'all thinking that I'm farming, because
no.
Listen, I grew up thinking that most vegetables came either frozen or in cans. I thought meat, rather than being on the hoof or, rather came shrink wrapped on styrofoam in the butcher section. So the first time I ever saw a skinned animal was the Shomronim, the Samaritan Korban Pesach, their Pesach sacrifice, because their calendar is a little different than ours. And I have to tell you, I kind of went vegetarian for about 6 weeks after that one.
Well, now the question lies, so you could not find lamb bacon, or is it just, with the massive amount of money that you've been making since the lockdown, it might be a little out of your price range, right?
Yeah. The kosher lamb bacon, there's a French butcher who specializes in that. It is available and he will deliver it. But essentially, it would be like taking out a second mortgage on my soul. And it's just not a good financial bet at this time.
And we know that you've already got that mortgaged out quite a bit.
Yeah.
All right. So past all of the things about, the important things of what you're having for dinner tonight, give us some words of wisdom from the Torah portion.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. This is Parashat Lech Lecha. And I grabbed a couple of copies of the Tanakh off my shelf just to see how they were translating those first few words. Mm-hmm. And generally, most English translations will say something like, get thee from your father's house to a land I will show you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Thee and thou, and et cetera, et cetera. And I have here the Israel Bible from our friends at Israel 365, and they translate it as to go forth from your native land and from your father's house to the land I will show you. Which, okay, I can live with that, and I think it's a good translation. But there's something I want to point out. The terminology lech lecha. Lecha means to go for you or go to you for some reason. And what's interesting is it didn't even dawn on me that this was the week in the next few days where all of our friends in America are plagued by something called Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even on my calendar. The message in those very first words, you need for yourself to leave your father's home, what your father has taught you, how you were brought up, your family customs, your family background, everything that you relate to as having created you as you are, in order to be, now again, to be a great nation hasn't come up yet, that's still to come, but you're to go to a place that isn't even on your GPS. You can't plug in Waze. You can't, but you're going to go. But in order to do that, this mysterious God that can't be seen, that has no idol, you've got to leave everything behind. That to me is, in general, it's always huge, but particularly because of the timing this year. And as I look on Facebook, where I essentially reside, many of our friends in the Hebrew roots movement, in the Ephraimite movement, are expressing a lot of anxiety because the world around them is consumed by Halloween. Now, I have to tell you, growing up in the Bronx, in New York City, in the 70s, late 60s, 70s, was scary enough. We didn't have to create vampires and bats and ghouls and as if 2020 hasn't been frightening enough to any of us. This already is a horror film on all levels.
Yeah.
Okay, so that being the case, one of the things, and I was reflecting recently because I don't know when my next trip to America will be. Sadly, it appears that it'll be sometime in 2021. I was in America in January and February, and that was my 22nd trip to the US since August 2013, speaking exclusively to Hebrew roots, Messianic believing Ephraimite congregations and fellowships. And everyone tells me that they're living in a Hebraic mindset. Everyone tells me they've left their past and their upbringing behind.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come to something like Halloween and you say, there may be something more to a Hebraic mindset than calling your friends on Facebook Achi and Achoti. Or instead of saying the Holy Spirit, saying the Ruach HaKodesh. By the way, that is pronounced Ruach HaKodesh, not Ruach HaKodesh, with an accent mark. As Ramona Frank pointed out at the B'nai Yosef Congress meeting a few years ago. Now, what it means is you've got to look at yourself and say, is this holiday, is this celebration consistent with the Torah values that I'm trying to raise my family in? We forget how impressionable our children are.
Yeah. I get, Hanoch, what you just said there. I want to go back to it about, the holidays. Should we not look at all holidays like that? I mean, your statement. Do you remember your exact statement there again?
That I think it was something about. You see, this is where if we were sitting in one studio together, I could say roll the videotape, but we can't. It was something along the lines of before you observe or celebrate or acknowledge a holiday or celebration of some kind, you need to filter it if it's consistent with the Torah values that you and your family are trying to live.
Okay, got it. And the reason I wanted you to say that again is, do you know that what you just said is not just about, Halloween, Christmas, Easter, but the way that we celebrate Pesach, Sukkot, Hanukkah, the other festivals, we can take the biblical festivals and turn them into something that is not consistent with the Torah, and therefore passing down something it's close, but it's not quite there.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And even when it's not something in conflict with your Torah values, you have to be careful about sort of embracing something as a tradition of the holiday itself. I'll give you a silly example. Some people asked me recently about the custom. This is the way it was described to me, the custom. Now, again, people are always saying, listen, Hanoch, no offense, but you Jews are making stuff up all the time. Okay, the custom of the campfire on Sukkot. So this was the classic, like, what you mean, Willis? Like, what campfire on Sukkot? So, well, of course, the campfire. You always have to have a campfire on Sukkot. Like, where does that come from? So I said, well, that's a great question. Where does it come from? I don't know a single Jewish person that would build a campfire in the middle of their little, fabric and wood sukkah. The campfire comes from the Ephraimite side of the family, who were busy camping out. When you camp out, people gather around a campfire and then you have toast marshmallows and s'mores. Now, let me be clear about this. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's a fun group activity. However, it's not a tradition of Sukkot. It has nothing to do with Sukkot. So if you want to have a campfire, but don't say we're having a campfire because it's Sukkot.
Well, I don't know if you've ever heard the story of the newlyweds, that the new wife, and this is not a kosher story, so I'm talking to someone in Israel. I'm not telling a kosher story, but she was going to cook a holiday ham, and so the husband said, well, you need to cut off the ends of the ham. And so she said, why? She said, well, he said, I don't know, but that's what my mother did all the time. So she dutifully did that. Well, she started to ask the questions. So she ended up calling her mother-in-law and said, why? I was told I had to do this. Why? Well, because my mother did. And so she ended up calling grandma, her now, in-law grandma, who said, well, my pan was too short for the ham. This is true.
Perfect.
Whether you're in,
Perfect.
Christianity, in Judaism, Ephraimite, or the local golf club.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
Everybody does it.
Yeah.
And acknowledge why you're doing it.
Exactly.
Don't create a pseudo-religious, semi-spiritual element to it where it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
We have enough symbolism in the holidays of the Torah. We do.
Now I want to take you to somewhere. I didn't warn you about this, so
you never do.
Be very afraid.
You never do.
Yeah, it's something I saw yesterday and was teaching on. I was actually running out of time in my program yesterday. So in Lech Lecha, which yes, I'm total with you on this. It means go to yourself, which basically says to me, when you're living in Babylon, you can't find yourself.
Exactly.
You have to leave Babylon in order to find who you are. And so
Right.
is that what this movement is all about? Okay, that's another subject that we covered. But when Abram goes through Shechem, that place that you and I love to go to on the To Connect Israel, February 28th, go to connectisrael.org. I just paid for the renewal for the website, so it's there. He goes on and he's talking about, I will give you this land. And down in verse 6, it says, to your descendants, I will give this land. Now, at the end of the Torah portion, what I saw, I had written it down actually, but it never really clicked, that in chapter 17, verse 8, all the land of Canaan I will give you as it says in my translation, as a permanent possession. I will be their Elohim. The word there for permanent possession is olam.
Which chapter and verse?
This is chapter 17, the end of verse 8. So
Hang on.
I will give you the land as an olam, which is the word olam. We do the blessing, for various things. And we use the word olam, which that's more of an eternal.
Hang on one second.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you said chapter 17?
Yeah. Bereshit 17.
What verse?
The end of verse 8.
8. Okay. Okay, it's interesting. Here it says, an everlasting holding.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be their God. There is an intrinsic connection between the possession of the land of Israel by the people of Israel with Hashem. This is like a three-legged stool, and if you knock out one of the legs, you have no hope whatsoever of any stability.
Mm-hmm. So what I was seeing with this, that Abram, when he leaves, he's not just being taken to the place of his present, but he's being taken to the place of his destiny. I see the wheels turning.
I know you froze up there for a second.
Okay. So when Avram is taken out of Ur, or Haran, yep, as it were, he says, go to yourself. He's taken to the place not only of his present, but the place of his destiny. He's
absolutely true.
He's taken into his eternal place, not just his time on earth place.
That's absolutely true. And this is the entire Torah, one way or the other, is constantly reinforcing the centrality of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing among the many people that listen to both you and I together and you and I separately that I struggle with understanding is I don't understand at times what it is that they don't understand. Now, I get that not everyone has the money to pick up and go to Israel every year. I get that. Believe me, I do. But I also see how people set their priorities for what they spend money on.
Mm-hmm.
I notice it, when people stop me and compliment me on my much more healthful appearance, and they ask what supplements are you taking? And I tell them all about Pure, and it's kind of like, well, yeah, but people wouldn't hesitate to go with their significant other and spend a couple of $100 over a weekend. So It's really a matter of priorities, and it's really a matter of connection. And what is it that you want to be connected to? Avraham, we describe Avraham in Hebrew as Avraham Avinu, Abraham our father. He is the patriarch. And, it all started there, but where he went to is where we will all be. Just like you said, we're looking into the past. We're looking at something that happened approximately 4,000 years ago, knowing that one day soon, Be'ezrat Hashem, with God's help, you and I will be neighbors walking down the street saying, so where are we going for shawarma?
I don't really like shawarma that much, so maybe we'll just do some, fish cookies. We're going to introduce fish cookies to the whole land of Israel.
Now, are they aware that Grandpa Sir does not like fish other than in those fish cookies?
Well, we might want to keep that to ourselves for a while.
Okay, I won't share it.
Let me take you back to the spiritual aspects. We're running out of time here. A book that over in the side that I see, your scripture is easier to memorize because it's a little shorter. Mine, I got another number of books there. In the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, and this is a chapter that is very meaningful to me during Hanukkah. It's called the chapter of faith. And it says in there regarding Abraham, and he gets quite a bit of space there in that chapter. It says he looked for a city whose builder and maker was Elohim. And so when he left Ur of the Chaldees, when he left Haran, was it that he was looking for the temporary of the land of Canaan? Or was his eyes already set on something of eternal? That what he saw in Haran, he saw a people living in the present, kind of meaningless life. The life that Shlomo would talk about of vanity, vanity, all is vanity. So maybe, there you are. Okay. Maybe when he left Haran, he was already looking for something eternal that would really feed his soul, not just that which is temporary. Okay, you froze up there for me. Did we lose it?
I can see that, and I can see that he was. I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I believe he was led to the place where his soul could most connect.
Wow.
And that's the spot that he saw that was Moriah, that he was to bring his son Yitzchak.
Okay. Well, that takes us to we're both kind of breaking up here. There's too many school kids in Israel online right now. I think we got a conversation to continue with in coming weeks, so we will do that.
To be continued.
Yeah. For now, enjoy.
Mike, thanks so much.
Yeah, enjoy the Southern dinner, and remember, you got to put a little Tabasco sauce on that tomato gravy to really give it that extra kick, okay?
Sure enough.
All right. Take care.